is a remix and rework of the work of someone calling himself Macau, or variations thereof, from 2010, 2011, and at other times and places. We're going to do a little primer here on percussion caps primarily, and also musket caps. Percussion caps, if you're not aware of it, are these little brass or copper metal cups that contain priming compound and act as a primer. Now in this case, if you're not aware of what a primer is, it is a tiny amount of an explosive put inside of usually a metal cup. Sometimes it's really broad and skinny. Sometimes it's a deep tube like this. And they're very similar to the cap gun caps that go on, that are on a little ring of 8 or whatever number, sometimes 12. Now, and almost identical. In fact, that's why they're called cap guns, because they use these percussion caps in a toy gun. That's really all there is to it. Now, unlike a toy cap gun where it has a metal pin in the middle for it to hit, these had a metal tube with threading on one end and a tapered or cone-shaped top to it. And then this here is where you'd grip it with a pair of pliers to put it in. It's also called anything from a tube to a cone to a nipple. Now, the way these things fit on is this tapered part here is a lot like a cork for a bottle. Only in this case, the cork's upside down, and this cap becomes, ironically, the bottle. So what happens is as it's put on, it applies, if you can't see the gap here, it applies more and more pressure around its ring-shaped shape at the opening here. This forces it to be completely round, at least when it gets to this point, and reforms it around, for that instant, that firearm's ignition source. Through this opening in here called a flash hole, this explodes and produces a burst of flame. In here, it's this blue-green thing is called a foil. It's actually made of paper most of the time. It bursts when this finally detonates. The funny thing about this is, and it is kind of counterintuitive, is because this is a hollow tube, these are by definition, even when they're hit with a flat metal hammer, which is how they work, the edge here is what goes off, or the rim. So this is a variation almost of rim fire, and in fact is where we originally got rim fire, 22 caliber, long rifle, short, magnum, etc. is a variation of this where they did another stage where they made this priming compound fit into a rim by pinching in this edge here and making it where you could chamber it as a cartridge. Now, unlike primers that are used in shotguns, rifles, pistols, and whatnot, the outer diameter on these things is considered non-critical. The inside diameter is important because the only surface it makes contact with is the surfacing here, where the inside of the little metal cup is more important than the outside. Now, as you can see from this one's pushed on all the way, and it's already friction fit or interference fit, which is what this is called. And it's not down far enough for this to be in contact with a primer. You want it to touch, but not crush it. And if it was fired, this thing would have to be pounded down under a lot of force until it finally got down to the right height. Now, here's a very specific thing. Without changing the inner diameter, because this is cone-shaped like a cork, this could be taken off because it's the wrong height. A dowel or something could be put in the middle of it, and you could cut it off to here, and now it would seat properly. It would just have less of this metal, and it might work. Also, you could start off with one that's too big, and, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You'd have to have it have a long skirt and an oversized one. Yeah, that's why they have different lengths. They can change the inner diameter or the length of them to make them fit different muskets or cap, cap primer nipples or tubes or cones. Now, there's a very specific thing about this that is important here, is that there's only two that have ended up by being de facto standards. The smaller one is used for pistols and the larger one is used for rifles. And the difference in diameter and size is not very big, but they're called number 10 and number 11, which gives you an idea of how many there may have been at one time. I'm sure it's referring to some specific number, and we'll get to that in a minute, maybe, but the point is, these things are fitted, again, not by the outer diameter of the primer, but the inner diameter, or its height, or combination of it. And, again, we could make these all have the same inner diameter, or a very similar one for one company, and make them fit different cartridges, different nipples, by just making them different lengths. Or we'd make them of different diameter and have to extend the skirt. So those are the two main methods. The outside diameter shouldn't be the thing you pattern things off of to make them a number 10 or a number 11, and they usually don't. But I just wanted to show you how these fit on here. Now we're going to go up. Now that we know what we're doing, it should be again repeated. Changing the length of a single inner diameter cap can make it fit different height and therefore different cones and therefore different cap numbers. They can be identical internally. And now we're going to look at this list. Now, as by the way, if you're not aware of it, 2010, 2011, a man named an individual named Mako did all of the measurements here, and only a few of them were reproduced later by another person, which I'll discuss in a minute. Number 10 and number 11 percussion caps and also musket caps are going to be in this list. I'm just throwing it in because musket caps, four-wing musket caps, are pretty consistent. In fact, there's only one entry that was given any thought to. This was a major rabbit hole because tracking down Mako's original postings, well, I found them, but I had to go dig them up out of an archive, and then I had to archive that. So here we go with the first stage. The inside diameter variation. Again, at the bottom here, I have the average inner diameter. This is meaningless. It is my idea of averaging. It's not a real average. It can't be, because these are weird numbers and very lopsided. As 0.162 inner diameter. Their average height, or how tall the whole thing is, the cup, is 0.173. We're seeing some numbers that are kind of similar. The inside of it, if you subtract how tall it is from how much material is in it, and a few other details, you get 0.113 inches, or it's 0.135. There's some variation problems because one of them is this is the average and this is the other average if you use all of them in here. Next we get to the amount of material, how much primer material, and this also includes the thickness of the metal, so I had to figure that out too. And it works out to 0.044 inches of primer material thickness. The outside diameter. Remember, I said the outside diameter isn't supposed to matter. You're doing it based on the inside diameter, not the outside. But where it was noted, they were 0.81 or 0.80 almost exactly. 0.80, 81, 83, that's it. Those are the only values. And if you're not aware of what that means 0.81 or 0.82 is considered the average. Again, outliers I'm ignoring, and some of them they didn't include the outside diameters on them. But even the four-wing cap might have had that. Well, no, it's obviously not going to do that. But the metal thickness, now I thought where it was noted or able to be derived, I've got it over here. And it has a variation of 0.015 to 0.019. That seems kind of consistent in a way. I mean, not by percentage or average, but seems pretty consistent. So, the height. See, we have here, these are the numbers, and they go, the variation here from 0.158 to 0.166, which is the main bunch of them, is only a difference of 0.008. 8 thousandths of an inch difference for the inside diameter. Excuse me. Except for the four-wing cap, it's much deeper. So, yeah, very consistent. So that means that you're probably going to vary the height of them most of the time. Okay, well, the outside height varies from 0.2 inches down to 0.152. That's a fairly large percentage change. That indicates, again, the fitment is done by changing how tall they are primarily. But we see here that we got the 0.16, 0.163, 65, pretty common numbers. So that tilted the number down to that number being the average, although it's not really an average. Here we are with the outliers, the 0.181 and the 0.2 inch. Now this one has a lot of variation to it, and I couldn't find any of these confirmed anywhere else. We're literally dealing with Mako and one or two other sources who said that they went ahead and confirmed it, not much else. The inside height, 0.112, 114, 112, 115, 113, and then we get the outliers, 114, and of course 115, or 155. And this one can be a mistake. It was only supplied by one person who did the test, not Mako, and wasn't double checked. So, what can we learn from this? Well, that gap at the top, where it has the propellant, the primer, that includes the paper thickness and the metal thickness. What's our numbers for that? Now, I mentioned already probably the average is 0.044. Here's 40, 37, 52 is an outlier, 37, 51 is an outlier, 46 is okay, 45 is okay. They all work out about the same. Well, these are different propellant charges, or hotness level, or magnum. The only thing, ironically, with the number 10 and number 11 percussion caps that are kept consistent is the part that isn't supposed to affect anything at all. The outside diameter is almost always exactly 0.18. There's so little variation in it that it's not worth even reporting. And the metal thickness is fairly consistent here, and that was derived and is missing there's some missing entries here. But we're seeing an amazing level of consistency between them, even if they're labeled number 10 and number 11. The main thing that changes is the height. So, if it looks too small or too big, first guess by the height and see if it's consistent with your firearm if you have one. And next, again, by changing the length of it, any of them that had the same inner diameter might be able to fit different heights on a cone and or be too loose or too tight or be just a different value. And that may be the reason you can do this or this to make them fit different cone, tube, or nipples. Credit where credit's due. 2010 to 2011, Mako posted on Cast City, aka the Cowboy Action Shooting Forum posting area. Then in 2011 also, he reposted all of this to the High Road Forum. He then reposted this and updates in 2012 to the Open Range Forum. And then in 2018, a PDF archive was at Gun Toter's blog, and I made a text version from it by doing a little trick on Google. 2020, Tom Metcalf Jackson at the Henry Crank website updated a few of the entries and reposted it, and also said he seemed to have reconfirmed it, but I can't confirm it. So I'm just going to assume this is all Mako's work. And again, this is from 2010 to 2011. It's over 10 years old. And, well, it's a technology that's hundreds of years old, so I guess that doesn't make much of a difference. The year 2021, Buffalo Arms confirmed, or at least had mostly confirmed, RWS 1055, that weird outlier that's 0.2 inches tall. And it matched one cap only. None of the websites tell you this data that I just gave you. It's only supplied by Mako, one other source, and me trying to compile it. And the reason this is a standalone video, instead of it being part of the page this is going to be included in about primers in general, is that this one was a gigantic, painful rabbit hole. Mako's posts on the other topics at the High Road Forums is linked through this, and I'll include all of these links below in the description. So I hope this video has been useful to you and may have cleared up some issues, or God help you, it may have made it worse. Number one. Number two, since that time, these standards have changed again. Next, this is the granddaddy of all primers and is still used in Europe on firearms because it's a simple design. Next, the thing, again, I hate doing this, the thing that people measure things and name things by is not the part you measure with a set of calipers. It's what's written on the box. I hate this when I find this in every kind of standard I run into. It's one of the reasons I'm making these videos. So, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And I appreciate your time in watching my video on percussion caps and, well, musket caps, one entry. Good day.